Hey, what's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Scares! That's right, we're moving right along on our month-long journey of nightmares with the second film in the Hellraiser series, and this one is called Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Taking place shortly after the first film, Kirsty is now in a psychiatric hospital having witnessed impossible things. But when she gets a message from her father that he's in hell and he needs her help, she vows to travel to the depths to find him. Meanwhile, Julia is attempting to come back from the dead with the help of a deranged doctor who is obsessed with the Cenobites and the mysterious world that they come from. So as I had hoped, it looks like they're definitely digging a little bit deeper into the mythos of these Cenobites, their world, and the puzzle box that they're always carrying around. That was actually one thing that, for whatever reason, I never got around to talking about in my first review, the puzzle box. This thing's pretty awesome, and it seems to me that there's a variety of individual configurations that the thing can do, which ultimately does different things. And that alone has me pretty intrigued on the upcoming sequels, and I appreciated that this film was also a direct sequel with plenty of returning cast members. Personally, with this franchise, I was always expecting each movie to be a little bit different than the last, and more like money-grabbing sequels. But to see a direct sequel is also pretty interesting. But that being said, I don't really know if there's anything else that this family in this series can contribute to the mythos itself, which is why I didn't really expect a direct sequel at the same time. The main things that I wanted to see in not only this movie, but also at this point I want to see in the rest of the series, is a huge focus on practical effects, makeup, set, and production design, because a big part of the Cenobite world is looking and feeling like hell itself. And while I would say the practical effects are probably better in the first film, they're still pretty great here, and I would go on to say that the second film is probably better with the production and set design, as well as makeup, since they spend a little bit more time diving into the mythos of these demonic beings and how they came to be. So it's a little bit of a give and take scenario. The main thing with the practical effects of the first film was that it was all about pacing. They did such a remarkable job transforming this one guy from just like a drop of blood to a nearly completely revived human. And they did that throughout the runtime of that first movie. So it was a slow progression thing. And there was a ton of shots of focusing on this just truly bloody looking guy. They started doing that with Julia in this movie, but it wasn't a slow progression. She started out looking like she was already made of muscle, and the doctor guy in this movie wrapped her entire body up in bandages as if she was the Invisible Man. And to a degree, I do get it. Nobody wants to be filming an entire film in that kind of makeup. It probably took hours to put on and look just right, as it was this dripping body. But it cheapened it for me when they wrapped her up, and then she ate somebody else and suddenly she looked normal again. She was barely in that muscle body state as is, which is just unfortunate. But that's all technical stuff anyway. What did I think about the story, the plot? Well, again, I did like that they dove a little bit deeper into the actual mythos. I think in the end of the day, that's probably the most important aspect. But everything else wasn't really that engaging for me. The crazy doctor who's obsessed with the Cenobites, that was pretty awesome, but I didn't think most of the returning characters really needed to be here. And some of the film began to get a bit weird and confusing the more puzzling that it tried to be, most of which would have probably been easier to follow if we didn't have to also focus on the returning characters. I also liked the extra focus on the Cenobites puzzle box and some of the more potential things that it could possibly do. Made me want to buy some kind of replica of it or something. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention here was neither good nor bad. There's a character in this movie that has a lot of focus. It's a girl in the mental hospital that has an affinity to solve puzzles, which makes her pretty important when it comes down to the Cenobite puzzle box. In general, I think there's a lot of promise for that, but I also have to notice that in the past, even Kirsty got the puzzle box to work even by accident, so I'm not entirely sure how needed this new character really was. But I'd be interested to see her in further sequels, if they decide to go that route. Who knows, because I have not looked into those movies. Overall, the main takeaway that I have for this film is that it's a fair sequel, and I'm still very interested in seeing where the rest of the franchise goes. Let's go ahead and break down my final score from an unbiased technical level. I still really liked the use of practical effects, production design, set design, and makeup, but on my technical grading sheet, all of those really go into just one score, the visual score, which is only 2 out of 100 possible stars. Most of the rest of the technical areas in my grading sheet for this movie are simply business as usual and didn't really stand out to me as anything past typical. This score is 64%. My bias score is slightly higher than that because I still think that the series is intriguing and I personally enjoyed the deeper look into the mythos and lore, which has me excited for the future. But I also know that this movie isn't as good as the last overall and not nearly as immediately iconic. So this score is 72%. When we average out the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 68%. 68 out of 100 possible stars, or a C+ letter grade. Fellers, let me know your thoughts on Hellbound if you have seen it. If you have not, why not? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need